one huge central battle. There's an Argentine legal philosopher who says that every constitution has a central drama. The central drama of the 1910 racist constitution of South Africa wasn't on racism. It was how to bring together the Cape Colony that had black people on the voters' roll with the Boer republics that excluded blacks completely, how to unite what was called the white races. And all their arguments and discussions, a bit about the language question, English and Dutch, related to those issues. Our central drama was on group rights, which the enemy, and even this is interesting, we started off calling them the enemy. As we started talking, we softened it to the regime. The regime insisted that South Africa was a country of many different nations. And to be one country, to have franchise for everybody, they were willing to accept that. They had to accept that. The world demanded it. But it was necessary to do so on the basis of the groups to which we belonged. And the three main groups, as they saw it, would be the Afrikaners and other whites supporting the National Party, the grouping in the ANC, overwhelmingly black, and the Zulu-speaking nation community under Mangosuthu Buthelezi. And what they were aiming for was what they called consociational democracy. A country like Belgium, with the French-speaking part in the south, the Walloon country, the Dutch-speaking people in the north, the Flemish part, and territorially divided, and all the institutions of state having components based on those origins, with Brussels sharing power between them. So it's power sharing between different ethnic racial groups they had in mind. And what they wanted was three presidents governing. It would have been Mandela on Monday, de Klerk on Tuesday, Buthelezi on Wednesday. I'm exaggerating. It would have been 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. Yes. And they would rule by consensus, which would mean that all had to agree. And as we saw it, the kernel of that whole objective was a white minority veto. And they were using the language of minority rights to ensure that all the accumulated privileges, wealth, property achieved through the system of white supremacy would not be disturbed. So, and if I could just give our counter position on that, because this is the central drama, and this is why we had the breakdown later on.
Yes.
The ANC position had already been worked out under Oliver Tambo in Lusaka, and he had commissioned Paulo Jordan in 1985 to draft a paper projecting into the future on what the ANC's approach should be to power sharing, and what was anticipated would be the attempts to preserve a position for the white minority. And Paulo did a magnificent paper that deserves to be held up as one of the prize features of our whole constitutional story. It's hardly known. But he said, okay, the whites are scared. They're not going to put down their guns. They're not going to relinquish power, because if there's majority rule, the way they see it, they're going to be driven into the sea. things will be done to them that they done to the black people. That's why they're hanging on to power sharing between groups. But he said, our answer is not power sharing. Our answer is a Bill of Rights. And a Bill of Rights is very deep in ANC history. In 1923, the ANC called for a Bill of Rights, focusing very much on the franchise, on education and land. In 1944, during World War II, African claims were projected. We're fighting Hitler, Mussolini, Imperial Japan, all racist community, the Axis. What about here in South Africa when the war's over? What are African claims? And African claims included a Bill of Rights. We want a Bill of Rights for all South Africans. That will restore dignity, enable us to have full franchise rights, access to the land, to education. 1955, the Freedom Charter. I happened to be there in Kliptown as the police came in on the last day, arresting us, putting our leaders on trial for treason. And we were saying South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white together. That was regarded as treason in those days. It was a very revolutionary concept. And that was a kind of a Bill of Rights. So this was in our tradition.
Right.
The non-racial democratic South Africa. It was the clash between those two concepts that was the head-on collision in the negotiations.